Hello everyone and welcome back to Foot Forecast. In today's video, I'm going to be ranking every Championship club's season so far. And the first side I'm going to start off with is Birmingham. And Birmingham have a very good squad, and I think their expectations at the start of the season was to at least make a real good push for playoffs and probably actually finish in the playoffs despite coming up from League One, because they spent heavily in the summer and they've continued to spend heavy in January. And as a side, they have improved recently and they've looked better away from home. But overall in this season so far, I think it has been disappointing for Birmingham, and I think they should be closer to the playoffs. They're currently 11th place and 2 points below Derby in 6th place. I would have expected them to be around sort of 8th, 7th place at least. So I think this is an underperformance from Birmingham. So I'm going to put Birmingham in D. So then we're on to the next club, which is Blackburn, and they're currently 19th place in the Championship. This is a round where I think most people would have expected them to finish, but currently they are definitely a candidate to be relegated, and they've been disappointing in a lot of games so far this season. I think I'm going to put Blackburn either in C or D. I'm going to put Blackburn in D. I think they need to be performing at a higher level than what they are currently, because all it takes is one result and they'd be back in the relegation zone because it's very tight at the bottom end of the table. So then we're on to the next club, which is Bristol City. They're currently 9th place in the Championship. This is a round where you would expect them to finish somewhere around mid-table. They did finish in the playoffs last season, but that was an overperformance. I think for Bristol City, it's pretty easy. It's going to just be a stock standard C. So then we're on to Charlton. Charlton are currently 18th place in the Championship, and they're 7 points ahead of Leicester in 22nd place. And Charlton's expectations at the start of the season would have been to survive, and they're doing this comfortably right now. I think Charlton should be a B. So then we're on to the next club, which is Cov. Cov are currently 2nd place in the Championship. They're having a very good season, and it's an obvious A. They have dropped off recently, but they were outstanding at the start of the season. So then we're on to Derby. Derby are having a good season as well. I think the expectations for Derby was to finish around sort of mid-table in the Championship, maybe breach top half. They're currently 6th place in the Championship, and for that reason, I'm going to put Derby in B. So then we've got the next club, which is Southampton, and Southampton have been quite good recently. They're currently 10th place in the Championship, but they are underperforming. I think most people had Southampton in their top 6. They look like a side that could potentially go up automatically, and for that reason, Southampton have to be in D. Then we've got another side which came down from the Premier League last season, and that was Leicester, and Leicester have had a shambolic season on and off the pitch, and it's resulted in Leicester being in 22nd place in the Championship. Even if Leicester didn't have this points deduction, it would still be a poor season because they'd only be in 19th place, and I'm definitely putting Leicester in E. Leicester at minimum were expected to be a playoff contender. So then we're on to the next club, which is Hull, and Hull and Leicester are having opposite seasons. Hull should be where Leicester are, and Leicester should be where Hull are, according to a lot of people's predictions at the start of the season. And Hull have had an incredible season. They're currently 5th place in the Championship and looking like they may well get into the playoffs. And it's definitely an A for Hull. They've done so well under a transfer embargo. So then we're on to Ipswich, who are currently 4th place in the Championship. And I think for any other side, you would have said, oh, you're 4th place, that'd be a good finish, and you're looking at B or A. But for Ipswich, I think they have different expectations to the rest of the league. I think Ipswich's expectations at the start of the season was to go up automatically, and they're currently not doing this. I think I'm going to put Ipswich in C. So then we've got the next club, which is Borough, and this is an obvious A. They've been fantastic so far this season. They are currently in 1st place as of recording. They're playing really well right now. This has been recorded, though, before the game between Cov and Borough. And if Cov win, they would go top. But either way, it's an A season for Borough. At the start of the season, you would have said playoffs would have been a good finish. So then we've got Millwall, and Millwall have had a good season so far in the Championship. They're currently 3rd place, and they are overperforming, so they're automatically in B or A. I think Millwall's expectation at the start of the season was to finish somewhere around the playoffs, and they're currently doing this. I think Millwall should go and B. I don't think it's quite an A season. So then we've got the next club, which is Norwich, and Norwich have had a rather poor season so far. And if you asked me before Clermont came in, I would have said this is an easy E because Norwich were poor before Clermont. But since Clermont, they have been better and they're not going to be relegated. So I think it's fair to put Norwich in D. I think the expectations at the start of the season, though, was to finish in the playoffs. There's still a slight chance of this, but it is unlikely. So then we're on to Oxford, who are currently 23rd place in the Championship. I think the expectations at the start of the season would have been to avoid relegation. So they have underperformed so far this season, and it's between D and E. I am going to put them in E though, because they've underperformed quite a lot, because they're 5 points currently away from safety. If they were closer to staying up, then I would put them in D. So then we're on to the next club, which is Portsmouth, and Portsmouth are currently 21st place in the Championship. And as long as they stay up, I think it's been a decent season for Portsmouth, which they're currently doing. They've also got 2 games in hand over the sides around them. So for that reason, I'm going to put Portsmouth in C. We've then got Preston, and Preston are currently 7th place in the Championship, and they're overperforming expectations. I think most people expected Preston to be fighting relegation. They've done really well to be around the playoff picture, and for that reason, I'm going to be putting Preston in A. Then we're on to the next club, which is QPR, and QPR have just had a decent season. They're currently 13th place in the Championship. This is around where I think people expected them to finish. There is a sliver of hope for playoffs, but it's very unlikely, so I'm just going to put QPR in C. And instead, I'm going to put Sheffield United in D. This season has been ruined by the opening sort of 10 games under Ruben Sellers, and it's killed a lot of hope of playoffs for Sheffield United. So then we're on to Chef Wednesday, and I've not even bothered to give them a ranking because I honestly have no idea where to put them, because they've had no expectations going into the season. Everyone expected Chef Wednesday to finish in 24th place because of the state of the club. So that means we're moving to the next club, which is Stoke. And Stoke have just had an alright season in the Championship. Stoke are currently in 14th place, which is around where I would have expected them to finish. Then we've got the next club, which is Swansea. And Swansea have had a decent season so far. They're currently in 16th place in the Championship. And once again, this is around where you would expect Swansea to finish. So I'm going to put Swansea in C. They're not going to be relegated, but they're also not going to push playoffs. So then we're on to Watford. Watford are currently 12th place in the Championship, smack bang in the middle of the table. And for that reason, I'm going to put them in C. It's been an alright season for Watford. If we did this 4 weeks ago, I'd probably put Watford in B, because Watford were in 6th place, which would have been a good finish for Watford, but they have dropped down to 12th place now. It's very tight, though, around this region of the table, and if Watford pick up a couple of wins in a row, then they'll probably move back into playoff contention. So then we're on to the next club, which is West Brom, and West Brom are going straight in E. It's been a terrible season for the Baggies. They're currently 20th place in the Championship. The expectations would have been to push playoffs and be somewhere around mid-table in the Championship at an absolute minimum, but they've had a terrible season, so it's an obvious E. So finally, we've got Wrexham, and Wrexham have had a good season so far in the Championship. They're currently 8th place after coming up from League One, and I expected them to have a decent season, finish somewhere in mid-table, but they've overperformed. I don't think they've drastically overperformed though, so I'm not going to put them in A. I'm going to put Wrexham in B. Let me know your thoughts on this ranking. Where do you disagree? Where do you agree? And if you enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video.